Would you like to learn martial arts but have a difficult work schedule or just don't have a school nearby? If that's the case, Global Martial Arts University may be your solution. In this video, you'll see an actual GMAU Taekwondo student test for white belt with real instructor feedback. Check it out.
Hello, I'm Michael Backroad. This is my test for white belt for Taekwondo. Stances. Attention stance. Ready stance. Junbei. Fighting stance. Sparring stance. Footwork. Switching. Hand techniques. Jab. Cross. Blocks. Low block. High block. Kicks. Front snap kick. Half of a roundhouse kick. Self-defense. Self-defense against a straight punch. Self-defense against a roundhouse kick. Solo drills. Number 1, pivot practice linear. Pivot practice circular. Solo drill number 2, low block, high block, front snap kick, all times 2. Kicking requirements: 10 front snap kicks each leg within 40 seconds. And go. Yeah! 24 seconds. Cherry up. Come here.
Hey there, Michael. I just got done grading your test. I want to start off by saying good job. You did really good. I'm going to say a lot of little details and little things to improve on. I don't want you to think that those are bad. It's just I don't get too much interaction. So I want to give you as much little details as I can just to help you progress further on. So let's get started. First thing is the attention stance. So the attention stance was good. The only thing is everyone always does this for some reason. Maybe I did it and I didn't realize I did it, but they clap. They make this clapping sound. There's no need to do that. Just whenever you go to your attention stance, just hands and feet together, attention stance. People always do that. It's like a penguin to me. Next is ready stance. I really didn't have anything to hit you on a ready stance. You did good on the ready stance. You breathe in slow, left foot comes out, hands and feet in at the same time, chest up. You were hitting all those. Fighting stance. Your front hand in your fighting stance is too far out. You're kind of like way out here, and there's probably about a foot gap in between your front hand and your back hand. What I want, if you're looking at it from the side, I want about here. So my front hand is only about a fist further than my rear hand is going to be. This just isn't going to be sustainable in a fight. My shoulder's going to start killing me. There's no way. We want to have our arms kind of in close, a little bit out, so that I can still block. But if it's way out here, your shoulders are going to start dying real fast. You're not going to be able to keep that up. Next is, it looked like in some of your times your weight was a little bit forward, so kind of almost over the front end. And I think I hit you on this a few times for a few different things, but I want your weight seated right in between both of your legs. So if you notice right here, my weight is on my front leg. Right here, my weight's on my back leg. In fighting stance, I want it sitting right in between, and in a lot of stance, we're going to want it right in between. And then another thing is your feet in your fighting stance were too close this way. I want them shoulder length apart, and then one is a little bit back. That's how your fighting stance should be. Your fighting stance was kind of merging in with your sparring stance a little bit, where your feet were very, very close together as far as this way goes. As far as this way goes, it was almost too long, but in fighting stance, we really, depending on what we're doing, we might sink down even more and have kind of a wider stance. We definitely don't want our feet in line. So if I'm facing right towards you and my feet are almost in line or really close to in line, we don't want that with a fighting stance. We want it offset more, like this. Sparring stance, you're holding out again, and it seemed like you were making sure that this was forward, and your back shoulder was aimed a little bit forward on your sparring stance. On this one, I want it back here, and this one's just tucked in. This arm is just kind of tucked in, and this one's out, but it's not out here. It's more out like this, where my elbow is kind of resting in, and my hand's just up compared to here. A lot of times later on, you're going to see me even start bringing this hand down here, and when you get tired, it's going to want to relax. So you just kind of want it out in front, just be able to block whatever's come in. But if it's, you don't want it way down here. But again, it's not really going to be sustainable having our elbows far away from our body. It's not going to work. You're going to tire out real fast. Okay, let's see. Next, we've got our weight forward, or we've got switching. So when you switch, some of the time it looked like your weight went forward before you switch. And then another thing I noticed, and you didn't do this in your stances, but your stances were a little bit messed up when you were switching. So when we're in our sparring stance, our toes can be up to 90 degrees offset. So I can have a 90-degree angle there. I cannot be obtuse. So I don't ever want a obtuse angle or your toes pointed back more than 90 degrees. And when you're switching, your back toes are angled like this. So your switch was looking pretty good, but those back toes kind of angled. I still want it, boom, 90 degrees, or better is slightly forward. So in between 45 degrees and 90 degrees is kind of what I want. So work on that whenever you're switching, not to have those back toes, and those are only the back ones, moved, pointed, or they're angled back, and the angle between your feet was obtuse, and we don't want that. We want right angles or less. Our jab. So with your jab, a few things on this one. Your other hand. So your jab hand is actually looking really good. Your other hand was doing this though. You were almost elbowing backwards as we did it. And I think you did it kind of as a counterbalance to help you push more with your jabbing hand. But we don't want to we don't want to forget that there's always an attack coming. So when we're doing our jab, we're going to have one hand up, boom. As I jab out, I turn my hips, I jab straight out, but this hand isn't going back, it's not going down. If anything, sometimes what I do with it is I'll bring it to my face, but if you elbow back like this, you're going to expose your face. So we want to be able to have our defense up as we do our jab. This one's going to be here. And that's going to go the same for cross, because I know I hit you on your cross, the same thing. Your other arm pulled back, and I think it didn't pull all the way back to the belt, but it pulled down here, and it just exposed your head. So even on our cross, this one stays on the same plane, so it doesn't drop lower or doesn't drop higher. It just stays right there and comes back. Let's see, I think I had a few more for the jab. Yes, so you threw your weight forward as you did your jab. Kind of like this. I'm over exaggerating a little bit, but I don't want that weight going over that front leg. I want you twisting. That's how we're going to be doing our jab, is with a twist compared to a weight moving forward, because a weight moving forward is going to be hard to do a lot of other things. We want even, our weight is distributed even on both of our legs. And a lot of these things that I'm telling you, I actually watched the video at a fourth speed. So most of these things probably wouldn't even be noticed. If you're just looking at yourself in the mirror, you're not really going to see most of these things. Like I said, I slowed it down to a fourth speed so I can give you as much detail as possible. So that's why I'm being real nitpicky. Next, when you had your right hand forward, I don't know if you jammed your finger or something, but your middle finger on your right hand kept doing this, where it would pop out. And I just want to make sure that you're aware that we want all of these in. That way we don't hit. We don't want to hit with the finger, with that knuckle. We're going to break that finger. We want to make sure we hit with the big two knuckles each time. So that was just, you probably weren't even aware that that was happening, but I saw that a few different times, and it was only with your right hand. So cross, like I said, cross, the only thing I saw on that was that your jab hand or your lead hand was elbowing backwards, which was exposing your head as you did your cross, as I mentioned that earlier. Your low blocks looked really good. The only thing I saw in your low block, and I think I only saw it once, I maybe saw it twice, is when you went down, you kind of had this bend instead of a straight wrist, you had a bent wrist. So other than that, your low blocks were looking really good. You know, make sure you keep that up and have that twisting power at the very end. High blocks. So it was definitely for your left hand. I saw your high block where the palm or the hand was in line with the forehead or the nose. I want it to be the wrist. So not this, but this. Your right hand looked good, at least on the straight ahead ones. It's hard to tell on the angle ones. But the straight ahead ones, your wrist was over for your right hand. With your left hand, it was your head over. So I want to make sure that you know we're going to keep our forehead or our nose basically in line with our wrist, not with our hand. For your high block also, I want you to twist the block at that last second. Right before impact is where we're going to twist that block instead of an even twist all the way through. And that's going to be something that's really going to come to you a lot later, is all of your punches, all of your blocks are all going to have this real twisting motion at the last second. And you're going to get a lot better at that as time goes on. I just wanted you to kind of be cognitive of it. That way you'll, progress with it. Also with your high block, you did this. And I didn't really notice this at full speed, but I noticed it when I went slower. So you kind of, as you're going out for that block, you would lean forward just a little bit. And it would always happen right about here, right about when we break this plane. You would lean forward for the rest of that block. I think you're trying to get power into it, but try not to lean your upper body forward with it as we do this. It's hard to do with paper in my hand, but here, instead of kind of that lean forward action. Your front snap kicks, as you had mentioned, that the toes were sticking up. You sent me an email for that, so I did see that. As far as the technique goes, the technique looked pretty good. I want to see you driving your hips forward a little bit more with it, but other than that, it looked pretty good. Also, breathe. It didn't seem like, well, I was looking at your breathing, and I want you to breathe out as you're expending energy for these techniques. So as the kicks, I want you to breathe out. And you can breathe in afterwards, but your breathing pattern wasn't really connected with your techniques. I want you to breathe out every time you do basically a kicking technique, a blocking technique. I want that as you do this. And then you landed with your front snap kick. So I kind of want you to practice this one for more of a fighting stance. So your feet are farther apart this way, about shoulder length apart. What I want you doing is I want you to kick it, and I want you to bring it back over here. I noticed quite a few times since your feet were starting really close, you kicked, and then watch, straight line here. You see how you can see my leg on this side? You kind of did this, and your balance was a little bit off because of that. So I want you to kick, and I want it to be on this side. So here's my center line. I kick right on the center line, and then back on this side. If I kick and I cross it over here, my balance isn't going to be there. So I don't want you to do that. I want you to kick and land it right in the right spot compared to crossing your legs. Never kick and cross the legs afterwards. So that's all. Front snap kicks are looking good. Your half roundhouse kicks, they're definitely getting better. Balance is still a key thing, but I could see that it was improving. One thing I wanted to point out to you, though, is because you were talking about how you feel like you're leaning back to get higher with your kicks. If you watch your video on slow motion, and I want you to do this, whenever you do your kicks, when you're at the height where your knee reaches its maximum height for that kick that you did, you ended up doing this afterwards each time. So you kick, boom, the knee reached that maximum height, and then you bob your head down. So I think that might be throwing off your balance a little bit, and it's not getting your kick any higher with that bobbing of the head down afterwards, because like I said, your knees already reached that maximum height that it went, at least for all the kicks that I saw, but you still bob your head down. So let's try to take that out and see how that works as far as helping with your balance. Next, we have our solo drill. So I put next to it, balance is key, as you already know. The first solo drill number 1, I created it just so people can have even more practice pivoting and practice balancing as they're doing and preparing for the roundhouse kick. So that's really the whole main point of that. For the first one, the linear one, let's see so you can see it. If you kick, and then here's my straight line right here, or my center line. If you step past the center line going that way, it's going to be difficult to get that second one off. I think I only saw you do this once, but I just want you to kind of grasp this concept so it's easier in the future with when you apply other kicks and more advanced techniques. So if I'm doing this and I drop this down, I want to drop it down on the center line, or I want to drop it down off, not past the center line. So I want to drop it on or before the center line. That way my hips are already opened up again for my next kick. But if I drop it past the center line, so here's the center line, I do my kick, boom, and I drop it past the center line, I have to reopen all these hips, especially if I'm going towards that exact same target. If I obviously change my target, then, that's fine. I was changing my target on the fly, that's fine. But if I'm going straight forward towards the exact same target, and I come here and I pass the center line, it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be very complicated in order to get that. So we want to avoid that. Like I said, I think I only saw you do it once, and I just want you to kind of understand that concept. Solo drill number 2, I want to see a little bit more connection in between the techniques, a little bit more flow, but it was still good, and I want to see you drive your hips forward a little bit more for your front kicks. So instead of just knee up kick, I want knee up push. That's just a thing that I like for the front kicks. Whenever you're doing it, you try to reach, and then you have a little bit more power moving forward that you're going to use your hips for. Self-defense number 1. I might have showed this in the video, and if I did, I'm sorry. where the arm stays out here, I want you to retract that arm back fast. So as we go off, punch and retract. Just because how you train is how you fight. If you have to use this and you punch and then for some reason subconsciously you just leave it out there because that's the way we practiced it, and now they've grabbed your arm, now they have control over you and you can't do something that you want to do. So we want to make sure that we retract back. So after we move, grab, punch, I don't want to leave it out here. I want to retract it back fast. And I might have done that in the video, just kind of talking and holding the arm out, but we want to make sure that we retract it back fast. And then for that, another thing is I'd like to see your head move a little bit more offline. We moved it offline about this much. So if you look, let me see if I can get something behind me as a reference. So you moved it about a head's length, but I'd like to see quite a bit more, if you could. I'm gonna see about 2 heads length off to the side. That way we're sure that we're not gonna get hit compared to we might not get hit. We wanna be sure about that. And then self-defense number 2, every time you did your block, you would do this. You started off with the closed fist, you opened your hand, and then half the time you close your fist again. It's kind of just unnecessary movement. Just keep that hand, just keep it closed. We don't want to risk, especially for low blocks. Low blocks are usually going to be done with a kick or something coming down low like that. We don't want to risk our fingers just getting broken. Just if they're kicking, you definitely don't want an open hand to block a kick. Hands, it's not so bad, but to block a kick, if they're going to overpower fingers, we want to make a tight fist. That way we don't get injured with it. So make sure that block right here, and you can put a little bit of hip into it, but the biggest thing I saw is every time you'd open up your fingers and then you do this. And then, so that's all I really have as far as stuff on the technique goes. I want to mention one other thing that I noticed that you do. And so this is called a telegraph. You do this with your fingers before you set up to do stuff. And that's not bad. But what I want you to kind of realize is I want you to start to see those patterns in yourself. And for doing techniques, it's not a big deal at all. It's for sparring that it really matters. And I know I do it sometimes too. Sometimes I do a little bounce, 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 one side, other, and then I go and do whatever the technique is. Everyone kind of has their own thing that they do, kind of a preparatory, get my body ready in order to do this technique. And that's fine to have, but I want you to realize that you have it so that you can break that habit if you'd like to, especially in sparring. If you're in sparring and you like to do, back, forth, and then go, and then you do that 4 times in a row and your opponent catches on, he's like, okay, I realize that's what he does every time before he does a kick. So now I can read when a kick is coming. So that's something that you should be able to recognize in other people. It's a good habit to be able to know, hey, this is what they do right before they attack. It's a good thing to know, or this is what they do right before they do this move. But I want you to also be aware of them in yourself. I know I see them in myself sometimes, so I want you to be able to see them in yourself. And like I said, if you'd like to break that habit, then you have to be aware of the habit first. All in all, you did a really good job, and congratulations on your white belt. Look forward to helping you out in the future.